Tell us in short how Bright Spaces was born and what made you choose this particular business idea.
So in our case, it's maybe a bit different than the normal starting point for a startup, because we had no clue that we were going to step into real estate. We were just a software development company and digital marketing agency, and we got invited to the first Eastern European proptech hackathon back in 2019, April 2019. My good friend and mentor for a long time, Ciprian Pașca from proptech Romania, said that we should be there. And I told him, I don't like real estate. I don't know why I should be there. I think we should focus on something else. And he said that the way we use technology right now, back then, would be a very good add-on to the real estate stack, because real estate was just getting started in the tech adoption. And I said, okay, let's do that. We prepared for 2 weeks for the hackathon, part of the team, because my wife was just starting her own business back then, a plant-based bistro. And the opening of that location was exactly when the hackathon was happening. I couldn't be present at the hackathon, so I was serving dishes, I was waitering. And my colleagues represented Bright Agency at that time at the hackathon. And we chose the leasing challenge, which was how can you digitize the retail short-term spaces lease and bring it into this century. And for us, it was something very familiar, because what we were doing in the software development company and the digital marketing agency was to understand the other party's business and come with solutions, with digital solutions to help them go to the next level. So we were doing that as a business, and in this case it was, okay, let's do the same but for leasing of retail spaces. My colleagues went there, they had a really good pitch and prototype creation in the 48 hours. They won the challenge, but they also, from the 6 challenges that were there, the jury wanted to vote on the most promising idea, the idea that could become a real company and a great success in the future. And lucky for us, it was Bright Spaces. So when I was waitering in that Sunday morning, my colleagues came to our office, because the bistro was at the ground floor of our office building, with 2 big checks. The one for the leasing challenge and the one for the main event prize. And I almost dropped the pastas on the floor. And it was like the perfect aha moment for me, because even before that, for probably the last 5 years of having the agency, I was thinking and trying a lot of ideas on how to get from services to product. And because I was doing that with my partners in parallel, every time there was a problem with one of the ideas, all the resources were going there, and everything was getting debalanced in the process. So we weren't able to do anything in parallel. And frankly, I think the media should be way more proactive in telling us, the entrepreneurs, that parallel entrepreneurship is not a thing. It usually cannot happen at first. Serial entrepreneurship is another thing, doing something that works and then starting another thing and then having multiple businesses in parallel. So coming back to that moment, I had the aha moment where I said, okay, this is it. If our team managed to just in 48 hours convince this jury that that we can change the leasing process. Imagine what we would do if all of our energy would be put into this. So next week I went to Andrei, back then he was one of the partners, and I told him, Andrei, I want to do this. I want to exit everything we're doing right now. I want to start Brightspaces as a real thing. I would like you to join. He immediately said yes. And we gave ourselves some months. So it was April. We said until fall, we need to raise the pre-seed round. We need to exit, to sell the portfolio of our current companies and let's say close everything, pay the debts and everything, because it wasn't the best moment in our in our agency. We weren't prepared to sell. So if we would have thought about it 1 year before, maybe it was another thing. But the truth is, the exit was just covering everything that we were owing. So it was like a fresh start for us. So that's what we did until September. We pitched a lot. We worked more on the MVP. So we raised the pre-seed round, 185k euros from Sparking Capital, Growchanu, and Ilin Capaun as an angel, our first backers. We started the company. We sold the Symbolic and Bright agency to Ztech, our good friends Alex and his team, and that was it.
You've mentioned that you gave yourselves a few months to test everything and make sure that it really is viable. Did you have, let's say, a plan B in case?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So it wasn't a trial. It was just we gave ourselves 2 quarters to finish everything that we thought about. So exit and raise the round. We never saw at that moment, we never saw failure as an option. We needed to raise the round and we needed to exit, because this was the new reality for us. We couldn't go back. It was really hard in those, I don't know, 5 months, 6 months to still work on the old projects, because we were so focused on what we wanted to build with Brightspaces that everything else seemed like a distraction at that moment. So we did it. We wanted everyone to be happy. So the current clients from the agency to go into the right company that could service them even better than us. And it was like that. We were really happy to see that some of our clients were happier with the new environment. So that was a success. The same with the team. We wanted all the members of our team to go into a place that offers them more than what we could. And we just kept 3 of our colleagues, the initial team. So it was me, Andrei, and 3 of our colleagues to start Brightspaces with the minimum resources and maximum energy and effort at that time.
Do you remember what attracted you to actually choose this path of being an entrepreneur, of being a startup founder, and maybe when you first heard about startups?
It's a bit hard for me to pinpoint a certain moment, because even when I was really young, let's say first years of school, I was very eager and happy to get involved into different projects outside of the normal path of I don't know, first grader or second grader. So I was always trying to do other things. At the beginning, it was just playing around, but then at I think 14, 15, 16, something like that, I started the first projects that brought me some money. It was so everything that was a passion for me back then and for my friends. When I looked at that, I was asking myself how we could make money out of this, and that meant in the majority of times how we could bring some value with our passion in order to make money. And that meant we were passionate about graffiti. So everyone was running away from the police because drawing graffitis on walls is illegal. But we were getting paid to do that by different entities, companies, that wanted their walls to look better, like gaming studios, or I remember it was something like a bread factory. I don't know, something like that. It looked awful, and we told them, what if we would draw something like, and it was with obviously had the theme of bread and everything, but for us it was the pleasure of drawing graffiti, and we got money out of that. And then we were very interested about the hip hop and rap culture, so we created the first, I think it was the first Romanian brand creating clothing for this industry. It wasn't a company, so it wasn't legal, let's say. We were just going, buying materials, going to, we had a very good friend who was 30 years older than us, but we called him a friend because he was very close to our mindset, and he was actually sewing the garments. He's now gone, unfortunately. He had some health issues a few years ago, and he left this place, but it was a really, really nice time. So when I remember the school at that time, I don't remember the school. I remember what we were doing sometimes during the classes, and other times before or after. It was really nice. And those were the first entrepreneurial, actions and projects that I've been involved. And since then, everything that I did and considered to do had to do with the entrepreneurial part of my life. So it was like so embedded from the beginning that I didn't see another option. I never considered getting a job or not even living in another place, because everything was connected to my current activity and everything was building up. So a lot of ideas failed, but each time a new idea came, the energy was put into that, and it was very natural in my case to choose this life as an entrepreneur. I didn't know it was called an entrepreneur or entrepreneurship back then. It was just doing what I needed to do and what I liked to do.
What did you find most, let's say, challenging when building Bright Spaces, and what opportunities did you see?
So if I look back to 2019, we were used to hard, to the definition of hard. So the other companies and projects that we've been involved into were never easy. Even at the moment when we were doing nearly $1 million a year and had a team of over 40 people, it still wasn't easy. So we never got to a point when I could say, yeah, this is it. It's easy, it's streamlined. So everything was a hustle, everything was harsh and difficult. So we were expecting the same with Bright Spaces. We never started with the idea, oh, it will be much easier. It will probably be much harder than expected. But there was a huge opportunity, because even though we weren't at all connected to the real estate space, after that hackathon, when we started researching, we realized that every industry at some point enters a cycle of tech adoption. We saw that for fintech. We saw that for enterprise software, like UiPath was, I think in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, there were they got their unicorn status. So we were seeing what happens in other industries, and we also saw how traditional the real estate sector still is. But then again, it's the biggest asset class in the world. So seeing the biggest asset class in the world, so traditional, way less digitized than all the other sectors, you start understanding that, okay, there will be a time when this sector will need to adopt technology, and it will probably be leapfrogging. So it will not take tens of years to reach the same level. It will probably take just years to reach the same level as banks, insurance companies, commerce with e-commerce, and medical with medtech, and so on. And we didn't know if we were at the right time, because this is very important. I would say that timing is probably the most important thing with a startup, but it's difficult to know if it's the right timing. It needs to be a bit of a courage and luck involved. But for us, it was why I believed it will be like this. It took too much. It was unbalanced. When you looked at real estate in 2019 and all the other sectors, you could see how much need there is, even if they didn't acknowledge it. And then 2020, COVID hit, which was the biggest slap on real estate face in the last tens of years, especially if you look at office, at commercial real estate. Retail was acting quite different in different markets. For example, Eastern Europe was booming. Western Europe and the US had some problems with retail, with malls and retail parks. But office was great everywhere. So Class A office space before 2020 was the absolute jewel in everyone's, every huge fund, private equity fund's portfolio. What happened then changed everything, because industrial logistics started growing a lot, and they were like the least interesting opportunity before, and office started declining. Residential also had a lot of bumps since then, because you saw how easy it was to go from a fully bullish market into a bearish market when no one is buying or no one is renting. And everything was so clear in 2020 that starting that moment, real estate needs to reinvent itself. And how can you reinvent an industry in this century without technology? So the only thing that we needed to do from our perspective was to be there, so to live. That meant to be funded, to be agile. That meant not be in love with your product, but try to answer the real market problems as soon as they appear, or even before they appear, if you can see that coming. Third, I would say, go global as soon as possible. Don't focus on a very small area. And that was it. That was the opportunity that we saw with Bright Spaces.
You mentioned it. I was just going to ask you if you if you started Bright Spaces with this global mindset from the beginning. You wanted to build a global company, not just a local company.
Absolutely. So, like I've said, even before Bright Spaces, we were looking to get into product, to act as a startup. We failed with a lot of projects before because we were doing that in parallel with other activities. But with Bright Spaces, we literally said to ourselves, let's assume we know nothing, go back to the basics. Let's reread Disciplined Entrepreneurship, Lean Startup, the entire Y Combinator blog and all the early stage VCs blogs and Super Angels blogs and understand what we need to do to become a tech startup. So subsequent funding rounds, fast growth, focus on more on many geographies from the beginning, and we thought we understood until we got accepted to PyLab's acceleration program in London. That happened in January 2020, and when we got there in March, we realized that we didn't know anything, because we were suddenly being exposed to more than 80 people from all around the world: US, Canada, Australia, UK, Europe, Asia, Africa, and all of these mentors presented what we need to do in order to become a global company. And that was another aha moment when we said, oh, okay, so this is what we need to do, not what we read from the books. It's way harder than what we expected. But it was something that we started with, and even right now in this, because we're now living a downturn and we see a lot of startups limiting their expansion, their growth, we still look at finding the right ways to continue with this vision. We consider that limiting to a geography, just in our case, just leaves a lot of space for other companies to go faster and grab the opportunity, because it's a huge opportunity right now with 3D digital twins that we are creating.
How did you see the Romanian startup ecosystem back then in 2019, and also how did you see it evolve during these last 4 or 5 years?
I think we started in 2019 in a very good moment when the startup and venture ecosystem in Romania was finally understanding what needs to be done. What I mean by that is, before we saw a lot of messed up rounds. For example, angels getting 50% of a company from the beginning, which means a messed up cap table. You're not able to grow from that. But in 2019, we already had the first layer of early stage funds. The first investments in normal investment theses were done. And then there was the UiPath success, showing that a company coming from Bucharest, created by some tech people, managed to become a unicorn and prepared for listing the company in New York. So I think it was the moment when things shifted, but it wasn't a mature ecosystem. In this last 3.5 years, 4 years, we saw, I would say, a fast path to a more mature ecosystem. However, the market downturn affected this. So it was like everything was going up, and now there is something stopping that growth. I hope it won't be a permanent or a permanent stop, or something that would take us back 3 years ago. But it's definitely the ecosystem right now is definitely losing its momentum. So the last years were really good. We saw some unicorns, as a venture world names them. So companies that will become unicorns in the next 1-2 years. We saw the coming of Endeavor in Romania, a really important step. More and more regional events happening in Romania, and VCs coming into Romania, even from the UK, but of course Poland, Czech Republic, Austria. So there was a really good movement, and right now we hope that the moment that we're now all passing through won't affect this too much. It does already. Funds get less money from LPs. The money that they have are harder to be deployed because LPs are now starting to get involved much more into the decision-making process. Less startups actually start because of the huge risks in a downturn of not being able to raise money, not being able to sell to the first company, the first clients. So yeah, not a really optimistic time right now. But I think the best companies will always succeed in any environment. So the best startups will find ways to succeed. It's a matter of the majority, what will happen to the majority, because in a good environment, you create more value even through spray and pray, just trying a lot of investments. In a downturn, when you're very selective, it's less exposure to new ideas, so it will be harder to grow the environment. Let's be thankful if we manage to conserve it and to still bring some new global successes in the next 2 years. That's something that we all hope for, because huge rounds, global exposure, listings are something that favor the entire Romanian ecosystem, not just the companies that get there.
You mentioned funding, and I want to ask you, how did you see the funding opportunities when you started, and how did they evolve during these years? Okay, now it's a difficult year, and even 2022 was difficult towards the end. It's different. It's harder to raise money as a startup. But how did the opportunities, I don't know, the number of VCs that appeared on the market, the number of angels and associations that...
Well, if you look at the quantity of the funding opportunities, we are in a way better place than before. We have a number of angel groups that are very active in the market. We have individual angels. We have Seedblink, like a equity crowdfunding platform that's now regional. We have more early stage VCs, but also some funds entering into growth stage with their either follow-on investments or even directly, so private equity. And now we're also seeing family offices. And we are seeing, even if it's not coming from Romania, we are seeing a lot of vertically aligned investment opportunities coming from the region or Europe into Romanian startups. We are one example, because we have in our cap table right now, in 3 rounds, we have individual angels, serial or super angels. So we have one angel who invested in more than 70 companies in his career. He has 1 unicorn in his portfolio. So that kind of people who are very seasoned. Then you have groups of angels like Growceanu or Tech Angels or Transylvania Tech Angels, Angels Network. Like you have family offices, you have CVCs, corporate VCs. So a lot of companies transform their profits into investment opportunities, and that's really interesting because they come with industry knowledge. Then you have vertically aligned VCs, in our case proptech VCs, and then you have generalist industry agnostic VCs. So a lot of opportunities right now, and we are one proof that you can actually tap into that very early, and not just locally but regionally. So that's a really good sign that Romania is on the map of investors from the UK, from France, from all Western Europe, and even US. If you look at some of the last rounds that were announced, we saw early stage investments from US funds into Romanian companies. Romanian DNA companies, let's call them, because not all Romanian DNA companies are still incorporated in Romania. And that's another thing. Yeah.
And speaking about this, do you think that, how do you see it? Was it harder or easier for you to start from Romania?
Definitely harder. I wouldn't see any reason why starting from Romania in the last in the history of venture would be a good thing. Maybe starting from Romania and not from I don't know, Africa. That would be probably better. But if you look at Europe, it was definitely a setback because first of all, the laws regarding the startup ecosystem, so investment, ESOP, are different from what happens in the UK, for example, or US. A lot of, if you look at a lot of scale-ups from Romania, they reincorporated in another jurisdiction, either Amsterdam, UK, Paris, or Delaware in the US. And that says something about the way we see the venture ecosystem in Romania. I think we still have some work to do here. We are also, so right now we are still a Romanian-based company. The headquarters is here. It might be at some point that we will need to change that if the entire focus changes into another geography. If you ask me personally, I would love to remain here until we get to, I don't know, a huge success like listing or huge M&A, but the truth is that it might be different.
How do you see the evolution of the Romanian startup ecosystem, let's say in the next 5 years, from your perspective as a startup founder? Where do you think we're heading?
I'm generally optimistic, so even with this downturn, I guess it will be a slowdown for 2023 and 2024, but I see a rebound in starting with 2025. So I think there will be a growth in the entire Eastern Europe in the next years, and a bigger slowdown in Western Europe. And I think that happens because we are way more used to things being hard. Inflation, like interest rates. Imagine that in the UK, the interest rates went up from 0.4% to 5%. That's huge. We were used to 7-8% for some while. So I think we have an advantage because we're more resilient with this kind of crisis, recessions, and I think that will be a good. We will have some good results in the next 5 years. What I think we will be missing is new companies. I think it will be because the companies who are already getting some success will definitely move faster than companies in Western Europe who are not used to this kind of difficulties. But we won't see a lot of newcomers into the market. It will be really hard because getting the initial funding right now is tough. getting the initial team, the initial founding team, will be harder because everyone will start thinking, maybe I should just keep my job for 2 or 3 more years until this passes by. But that's the thing: the biggest successes always start in crisis, because, and it's a very logical explanation. If you start during a crisis and it's really hard, but you're resilient and you manage to grow even a bit, when everything will start booming again, you will already be seasoned with your industry, with your team, with your clients, and you will be able to grow fast. If you just start after the rough times passed, you will have again another interval of adapting to the market and to everything. So I guess whoever manages to start right now and somehow get the resources, obviously a good idea, solving a huge problem in the market, will be able to get to real success, as you said, in 4 or 5 years from now.
What are your plans, your expectations with Brightspaces? What are you working on, let's say, till the end of this year and maybe in 2024? What are you hoping to do?
The first part of the question reminds me of something that seems a bit funny right now. So when we started in 2019, we said, yeah, we will only need like 5 years to get to the top. 4 years have passed, and now, in order to get to the top, what huge success means for us, we're now putting 7 to 10 years on top of the 4 years that have passed. So I think we're more realistic right now when it comes to the growth opportunities, because it's hugely connected in our domain with the market. So I think there's a huge opportunity for Brightspaces in 7 years, 10 years to reach global success. Until then, we will definitely grow steadily. We already have a presence in 5 countries: UK, Finland, Hungary, Poland, Romania, and we're growing the number of countries that we're present. And coming back to the second part of the question, what we're doing this year and next year, we are, first of all, we rewrote everything at product level. So we understood how agile and how modular and how adapted to the new environment our products need to be, and we did that. We're now, for the first time, starting partnerships. So not just selling our solution to the end client, but getting into partnerships with resellers, co-sellers, consultants, even with other startups or legacy well-established software where our solution can be embedded into, because this is how we see the future of real estate tech. It will be an ecosystem of features and solutions that work together seamlessly. And Brightspaces, with our 3D digital twin platform, can be embedded into a lot of other things, not just leasing. So we started with the commercial process, but there's construction, there's planning, there's maintenance and management of the assets and so on. So we will most probably be embedded into all of these processes through partners. When it comes to geographies, for this year and next year, we're focused on Europe and Middle East. And we want to consolidate our position in these markets. And we'll probably start experimenting with other geographies. Of course, US it's a huge market for us, but we won't be forcing something there until we know that we have the resources to make that possible.